The conservation of biodiversity through the creation and management of protected areas is high on Guyana's agenda. As signatory to the Convention of Biodiversity, the country is looking to achieve 17% protected areas by 2020. To this end, funding for the National Protected Areas Trust Fund will further advance the country's efforts to protect its biodiversity. This week on Dorado Shines, we will tell you more about the Protected Areas Trust Fund and the results from Guyana's 4th annual assessment of deforestation and degradation.
I wish to emphasize the importance of this trust fund in securing not only Guyana's rich natural heritage, but in securing the country's future. CI has been working in Guyana for close to 2 decades now, and its core activity has been to engage with the government and the people of Guyana in conservation and sustainable management of the country's rich biodiversity and ecosystems. We are therefore particularly pleased to collaborate with the German government through its development bank, the KfW, to provide the initial capital for the National Protected Areas Trust Fund. Minister, many protected areas lack the funding and management structure to be effective. In the early 2000s, and through the generous support of the Gordon and Betty Moore Foundation, CI established the Global Conservation Fund, the GCF, and since then, CI has been helping to design and support innovative, sustainable financing mechanisms for delivery of steady flow of funds to protected areas. Through the work of the GCF, CI makes investment decisions based on sound science to benefit the highest priority places for conservation through the creation and expansion of protected areas. We also help to mobilize additional financial resources to multiply and sustain our results, and we support a wide range of approaches to establish and expand protected areas. And of course, our work in Guyana is particularly important because of the global value of Guyana's biodiversity and also its important value to its local people. It provides clean air, fresh water and food for all of us in Guyana.
This is certainly a landmark in our efforts to develop a world-class protected area system. And the 2011 Protected Areas Commission Act, as David has given us a bit of background to, provides for the creation of the National Protected Areas Trust Fund. But because of the need for us to ensure that we move very quickly, we had the interim arrangement with the Conservation Trust Fund, and I want to recognize the hard work put in there by the team and those who served on the board as well as those who worked the day-to-day in terms of getting this fund up and running in dealing with all the administrative issues, even some of the legislative issues, and ensuring that we were mature and ripe and ready for an occasion such as this, and so much so that we can talk about having the National Protected Area Trust Fund.
Biodiversity represents everything that lives on Earth. It is the fruit of billions of years of evolution, shaped by natural processes and increasingly by the influence of humans. So far, about 1.75 million species have been identified, but scientists believe there could be 13 million species living on our planet. Biodiversity is life. It heals us, as more than 70,000 plant and tree species on Earth are used in medicine. It gives us shelter. Without wood, we couldn't build houses, furniture, or tools. Biodiversity feeds us and clothes us. The consumption patterns of people in rich countries are the principal cause of biodiversity loss. The rapid loss of the Earth's species is estimated to be between 1,000 and 10,000 times higher than the natural extinction rate. Today, our planet hosts 7 billion people. We need to preserve biodiversity so that it can meet the needs of 9 billion of us in 2050. The UN Convention on Biological Diversity aims to provide a framework to address the promotion and protection of biodiversity as a source of goods and services essential to life. The effect of human activities magnified in recent years by population growth and global climate change has greatly reduced biodiversity in ecosystems around the world. One way each of us can contribute to foster biodiversity is to choose a more sustainable lifestyle. Education can help us recognise that our individual actions, as harmless as they can appear, can have global ramifications. We need to learn that we are all part of a web of life. When one species disappears, others are at risk of disappearing as a result. We need to empower our children and youth today to help foster biodiversity tomorrow.
Kaichor National Park is a national park located in the Pataro-Siparuni region of Guyana. The park's boundaries and purpose are defined in the Kaichor National Park Act and was created to preserve the natural scenery and its fauna and flora. The Kaichor National Park is Guyana's first legally protected area and the oldest park in the Amazon. Known for the majestic Kaichor Falls, the area's rich biodiversity ensures visitors are exposed to a highly educational, adventurous, and challenging experience. Shell Beach, another protected area, is located on the Atlantic coast of Guyana in the Barima-Waini region, near the Venezuelan border. It is a nesting site for 4 of the world's 8 sea turtle species.
So it's the only place in Guyana really that has sea turtles nesting, and it's the last large stretch of mangroves on our coast. So whereas from Charity to Quarantine, a lot of the coast has been converted into seawalls and dams. That is the last part of our original coastline that we have left. So it's not really meant to be a place that's locked away. It's meant to be a place that's managed because it's special, and to ensure that Guyanese, whether us that's here now or our children or grandchildren, they have an opportunity to experience these places as they are.
Recognizing the scope for tourism in protected areas, the Commission is working closely with stakeholders in the industry to ensure visitors enjoy a memorable experience.
We're now putting the finishing touches on the Kaichor Management Plan, which has a tourism component. And what we wanted to do to start to operationalize this management plan is to conduct a tourism assessment of Kaichor and the services it provides, and to do that assessment in collaboration with tour operators, the Guyana Tourism Authority, the Ministry of Tourism, and so on. So that is on our agenda for the next quarter of this year. In the meantime, through support from KfW Germany, which is the German Development Bank, we've been able to almost complete a new guest house down at the bottom of the gorge, which is at the point where the overland tourists would start to climb the trail to get on top of the plateau. Germany has assisted us in putting up a new visitor arrival center and so on, and we're collaborating with communities in the North Rupununi, in South Rupununi, in Chinapau itself, which is close to the Kaichor National Park. We're collaborating with them to produce crafts specific to their particular area.
In the case of Kaichor National Park, which is the premier tourist attraction and gets the most visitors, we have increased the number of staff there, the number of wardens. They function as both wardens and tour guides. So they, in a sense, help to enhance the visitor experience in the park. And they also, in a sense, provide some security. They enforce the rules of the park, the Kaichor National Park. It has rules that are for the safety of the users and also to protect the park and conserve its features. And so we increased the staff. Now there should be more enforcement of the park rules so that persons can be kept safe. And we're still working on enhancing that. In the case of the Kanuku Mountains and Shell Beach, we are still to actually establish a presence on the ground. And they don't have as yet the number of visitors that Kaieteur National Park would have.
The Commission believes full collaboration with communities and all stakeholders is the most effective approach that would allow for the establishment of meaningful partnerships.
That effort to bring communities, business, and protected areas together is a good example of how we see protected areas, not just as places that are cut off or isolated from, development per se, but as engines for development themselves. So it may not be, a big extractive industry in the middle of a protected area, but it would be partnerships with communities to support sustainable livelihoods, to support craft development, to support tourism and tourism services. And all of those things contribute to income generation, to job creation, and to better lives and well-being for not just Guyanese in general, but in particular the communities that depend on these protected areas.
The Commission is also looking to communities to play a major role in the development of conservation initiatives for protected areas nearby.
In the case of, for instance, Shell Beach, we're now working with the communities themselves to develop a management plan that not just addresses the protected areas issues and concerns, but addresses those concerns of the communities as well. The same process was used to develop the draft Kanuku Mountains Protected Area Management Plan. In Chinapau, there's a much longer history between Kaieteur and that community because of the age of the protected area. And I believe that what we've been trying to do with this craft development and through KFW funding, again, through the protected area system, we were able to complete their airstrip in Chinapau and to support craft development projects directly with Chinapau. The hope is that that partnership will continue. It's not a perfect partnership. It's not where we would hope it would be, but we've committed to making the communities the centerpiece of any kind of livelihood development associated with protected areas. So we're committed in the long term to work with communities, and we hope that, as the situation changes and different challenges face us, we would be able to work with the communities to address their concerns.
Shell Beach is a stretch of 90-mile long beach located in the northwestern region of Guyana. It is the only place in the country where 4 of the world's 8 endangered species of marine turtles come to lay their eggs. New legislation has now widened the responsibility of the Protected Areas Commission to include several other parks.
What the new legislation does as well is they put urban parks under our administration as well. So for instance, the Guyana Zoological Park, the National Park, Joe Vera Park, and the Botanical Gardens all fall under this new system of parks and protected areas. So what we've been trying to do, particularly as we're talking about Biodiversity Day, what we've been trying to do is to strengthen the link between urban parks, where many Guyanese visit and have access to. I mean, our latest figures of people using the park, the national park in the afternoon, is about 1,500 people a day. And that's just in the afternoon. So what we see as an opportunity is using these urban parks to connect Guyanese with these larger ecosystems that are, I mean, a lot of Guyanese see anything beyond Linden as bush. We want to change that. We want to show them that these are special places and places that, we need to be proud of.
Protected areas provide a wide range of social, environmental, and economic benefits to people and communities worldwide. They are a tried and tested approach that has been applied for centuries to conserve nature and associated cultural resources by local communities, indigenous peoples, governments, and other organizations. Guyana Zoo is said to be transformed into an international park with walk-through exhibits, coastal wetland for aquatic animals, a savanna area for deer, tapirs, and other related animals, mountainous highland for small cats, and rainforest for the harpy eagles. Guyana has successfully completed its 4th annual assessment of deforestation and degradation under the Monitoring, Reporting and Verification System.
What we have to date is a program that allows for us to not only know how much forest we have at the beginning of every period. Throughout the year, we would have activities of forestry and mining being executed, and at the end of every year, we would know how much forest we have remaining.
The interim results for 2013 indicate that deforestation rate has declined over what it was in 2012. And the numbers show that our rate of deforestation for 2013 has dropped to 0.068%. This is below 0.079% that was recorded in 2012. Total deforestation is 12,702 hectares for 2013. The main reason for the decrease in deforestation is on the account of a decrease in deforestation from mining activities, which dropped to 11,487 hectares from the 2012 total of 13,664 hectares. This indicates a decline of 2,177,000 hectares. The decrease is on the account of a number of factors. One, we see our miners are using better technology. We see much more responsible mining and as well as low impact mining. Further to that, the decline in deforestation is also as a result of enhanced monitoring and enforcement activities by the ministry and our related agencies, working very closely with all stakeholders in the natural resources sector, including miners and those who operate in the forestry sector. The forest sector deforestation continues to be at a very low level of just about 330 hectares and justifies the fact that forest harvest has had and continues to have a very low impact on deforestation. The results are being finalized at this stage and will be incorporated into the MRVS Year 4 report, which is expected to be released shortly and for all to verify and certainly to seek more information. The findings and methods of the Year 4 assessment will be open to 2 layers of independent assessment. The first by a team of accuracy assessors who will be working to establish the statistical accuracy, uncertainty levels, and precision of the reported results, including deforestation rate. And the second assessment will take the form of an independent third-party verification conducted by a company contracted by the Kingdom of Norway. I wish to state that all Guyanese should be proud of the fact that the rate of deforestation over the past 23 years has remained fairly stable between the range of 0.02% and 0.08% and stands to compare quite favorably with the global average rate of deforestation, which is computed across 85 developing forested countries as reported by the FAO, and which is recorded at about 0.52%. This rate of deforestation and the reduced deforestation we've seen in 2013 compares favorably with Guyana's reference level, as agreed to under the Guyana-Norway bilateral agreement on forest and climate, which is set at 0.275%, which is computed as a mean between Guyana's historic rate of 0.03% and the global rate of 0.52%.
Over the past year, government continued to work tirelessly at the multilateral level to establish a REDD+ framework that sets the stage for future payments for forest conservation and sustainable forest management. This comprehensive monitoring system being used by the GFC is fully capable of capturing all types of extractive activities being carried out in the country's forest.
For any kind of program that is being executed, whether it is issuing new areas for utilization or expanding utilization in existing areas, contracting use in some areas, maybe shifting to new areas, whatever the kind of land use or land management activity that is being executed, our program of work under the MRV covers that in full. One of the greatest advantages of this program is that it allows for us to monitor the entire Guyana. So it is not selective for only existing areas which are issued for mining or for forestry activities, but for the entire Guyana. So when there are issuance of new areas or expanding of existing areas, all of this is covered within the MRV.
By using such an effective platform, development of the country's natural resources is expected to continue and even increase, with authorities being confident that such operations will have minimal impact on the environment.
If there are new programs, as we know, there may be new programs upcoming that would involve areas of work not only in monitoring but in extraction itself. We're able to cover all of this under the MRV. So we say this in a way that we hope gives some assurance that the platform has been built, a solid platform has been built for us to make informed decisions about where would the greatest impact be if we were to locate activities, for example, mining and forestry activities. Because we know, for example, to date, where are those contiguous tracts of intact forest. And this kind of information allows for us to make decisions as to where best can we allocate concessions, if there are need for expansion of concessions or opening up new areas for concessions. We now have information that allows for us to make more informed decisions. And we see more and more, not only at the level of the GFC, but at the level of the ministry and through the newly created unit called the Geographic Information Management Unit under the ministry, that we're able to put this information to use in informing these decisions.
The state-of-the-art monitoring system in place makes it possible for the Commission to closely examine the forest cover through satellite imagery and mapping.
Our monitoring occurs in two aspects. There is a monitoring that looks back at the period just past. So the core of the MRV, one of the core parts of the MRV looks for the previous year. So this looks at national figures that estimate the total amount of forest that has been impacted by mining, by forestry for a 12-month period. So for example, in this year 2014, we're looking at the assessment for forest change over the year 2013. And that is important to allow for more macro kind of results to inform larger scale national policies. But then there is a second part of the program that really is as a result of an increasing demand to inform monitoring programs in a more real-time manner that allows for us to, if there is something that happens in the course of the year that we are in, not just in the previous year, that we are able to take action and be able to inform our program of work in the fields.
Additionally, work is being undertaken to closely monitor those areas where mining, logging and other economic activity are at its highest.
An important aspect that we've been working on is in this very area. We have been looking to see what are the options that are available, and actually we've started some important work on aerial surveys. And in using local resources through our contacts within the airline industry in Guyana to conduct routine aerial surveys of some of the hotspots, as we call them, for mining and for forestry activities. What we've been trying to look at in a very detailed way, and we're aware that as areas become open up through roads and other kinds of infrastructure, increasingly those areas have a greater propensity to be subject to forest cover change. And that is one of the main determinants of where we monitor in the real-time manner. Currently, we have an overflight operation currently being executed over the hotspot areas for both mining and forestry, to not only build on our data set for validating our 2013 results, but also informing monitoring programs for this year, 2014.
These activities are already providing the Commission with valuable information and guidance on which locations require closer scrutiny.
We've already seen for 2014, in using the previous data sets we would have collected through aerial surveys, the targeting of activities of monitoring in the field, certainly at the level of GFC, we've been able to inform in a more targeted way where we're to concentrate our monitoring efforts. And through the sharing of information with the Geology and Mines Commission and the umbrella unit called the Geographic Information Management Unit, we see more and more as well that we're looking deeper into the area of where is the greatest amount of forest cover change in the mining activities, not only in the reconnaissance areas, but also the small, medium, and large scale operations.
Check us out on the internet for this and every episode of Dorado Shines. Just go to YouTube, search for Dorado Shines and start watching. Or like us on Facebook and receive instant updates. You've been watching Dorado Shines. Do join us again next week for another program. Until then, do remember that we all have a role to play in protecting the environment.